And the sun, it's like low, and he's behind me. And I see his shadow, I see his arm raised, and I see the silhouette of this knife. And at that moment, I understood he's going to behead me.
Right, I am Sat. I'm in Israel. I first come here in 2016, where I met one of the bravest, courageous ladies I've ever met in my life. Her name is Tal.
Tommy.
It's good to see you again.
That's what I say to myself every morning.
I want to hear your story for a British audience. I want to hear what happened to you. In which year was it, Tal?
2010.
And then we've just had a peace agreement. In fact, let's just rewind. 2010.
All right.
Okay, you're British, right?
Yeah, British born, came here after high school. You know, I put this story down for a number of years. And obviously what happened to me, the person who attacked me has just been freed in this deal. So I found myself speaking about it. And what's interesting, Tommy, is, I mean, I've done podcasts with your friends, Winston, Liam, Andrew, and it's harder this time around to talk about it. So I want to get this out the way, this bit, because we've got a lot more to talk about. But back in 2010, I'm working as a tour guide in Israel with a Christian friend of mine. And we're on a nature trail in the state of Israel, like not the West Bank as it's so called, but in Israel proper. Beautiful day. We climb up to a hill. It's in a forest. And we're sitting on a rock laughing, giggling, and I noticed something moving in the bushes 20 meters down. And this man stands up from the bush and he asks me in Hebrew if I have any water. Now, I could tell he's an Arab by his accent. I'd been in Israel then 25 years. So I just said no. I mean, it was just weird. What are they hiding for? And I could tell he was a Palestinian by the way he was dressed. And I said no, and they went away. And my friend asked me, like, what's going on? And I didn't want to, like, worry her. I thought they were going to rob us or something. So I just told her to get back to the path. And I take out my penknife just in case. It's funny when I think about it. You know, like poke him away. But we're walking down the path back to the car. And she's behind me and I hear her scream. And as I try to turn around, he pounces on me from behind. And when I fall to the ground, I break my nose. And I'm on my front and I'm trying to wiggle over on my back. And I managed to get on my back. And he's still, you know, he's a big man. And he's kneading his way up my chest and he's gouging out the air. And I've still got my penknife. And I just thought I'd give it a go. And I stabbed him in the nuts, right? Just very gently. And do you know what, Tommy? I mean, you've been in football fights. I've never been in a fight in my life, not a physical one. And I remember when I was stabbing him, I mean, this is how weedy I am, right? I'm thinking, I'm going to cut my finger. It's so ironic, you know, but it wasn't like strong and overpowering. I was trembling. But and then I thought, oh my gosh, I'm actually stabbing a human being. That's what's going on in my head. And he overpowers me. They hoist us up. My friend, there's another Palestinian there, and he's got like a kitchen knife around her throat. And then the one who attacked me, he draws out from under his jacket it's a machete. It's like serrated blade, 12 inches long, 7 centimeters wide. I know that afterwards, obviously, from the forensic stuff. And then we're, you know, the most surreal time where we're like half an hour in the most beautiful place in Israel. Sorry, Tommy. Oh, it's tough. And I can hear the birds sing, you know, and that's how surreal. It's like Beauty and the Beast. Savagery and sanctity all happening all at once. And he finds my Israeli ID. I tried to tell him, I'm saying, oh, we're both Christians, but he finds my ID and he sees that's not true. And then they tie our hands with our shoelaces, they gag us. He takes off my Star of David. And then there's this moment where they push us on our knees 2 meters apart. And the sun, it's like low, and he's behind me. And I see his shadow, I see his arm raised, and I see the silhouette of this knife. And at that moment, I understood he's going to behead me. So I'm a musician, and I'll never think this has impacted me very deeply. But there was like this, it was a symphony of monotheism. They say, the takbir, Allahu Akbar. My Christian friend, I hear a wail, scream, screech, Jesus save me. And we're gagged, and I actually throw up behind my gag. And I say, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, like, Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. And all those three creeds blended with such a terrible dissonance. And then physically, what am I feeling at that moment? It's like you got water in a bathtub, right? You pull out the plug, and then the water just goes down the plug so fast, meaning everything that I was, am, could have been, it's like it's drained out of me. And as I said, that creed, that statement of Jewish faith, which we've been saying for thousands of years, I don't know what to tell you. It's stuck with me. And he starts, when you say stabbing, we're talking, he starts stabbing me in the back and I fall to the ground and he's leaning on my side. And every time he plunges this iron knife into me, I can hear my bones crunch. And they hacked without fury, right? It's all so slow. It's like recreational terrorism. They're smoking a cigarette. And it's relentless. And as I said, I can hear my bones crunch. And I can hear him, he's peeved, right? Because it's serrated, the knife it gets stuck in bone. And he's just pissed because he chose the wrong knife. And the only thing I knew to do was like, okay, I got one last chance. I'm going to play dead. I'm going to play dead. And I understood, rightly or wrongly, that people die with their eyes open. Oh, my God. And I played dead, and it's his choice, right, to save my life. I watched my Christian friend squiggle and wiggle and being chopped up before my eyes while she's praying to her God. And they leave, they come back again, and they turn me over. And the last stab, he stabbed me in my chest, it missed my heart by 4 millimeters, and it broke my sternum. They leave again, and I'm like this puddle of blood, and I can see my rib coming out. And I got one last thing I got to do in life. I have to die nearer where I parked the car so the police can find my body. And I'm tied up. I'm on a slope, and then nothing hurt anymore. But I just wanted to sleep, and I knew that sleep meant death. But somehow I managed to stand, and I turned my back on what's left of my friend. And then gag-bound barefoot, I'm trying to navigate my way through the forest. Where is north? Where is south? Anything to get closer to where I parked the car. And I had 18 machete wounds. I had 30 broken bones, snapped ribs, crushed sternum, collapsed lung, dislocated shoulder, broken shoulder blade, sliced diaphragm, and splinters in my lungs. And I managed to walk over a mile in that state. And obviously I'm rushed to hospital. My friend's body is found the next day. And I guess if there's any hint of a good news in this is when I stabbed him, and I was just soaked in blood. But his blood was on my sleeves. So from that, the Israeli police apprehended them, and because of the DNA. And I was in court with them later on, much later on. And I'll never forget this. The judge asked the terrorist, he said, so why did you murder an American Christian? And in court, Tommy, he was smiling and smirking, and he just said, oh, we thought she was Jewish. And they were sentenced. And one of those people have been released in this deal.
What was your friend's name? Christine
Lucan, of blessed memory. Christian lady. I've been watching you, right? You have a Christian faith. She's like you. She came to Israel because she wanted to learn about the Jewish people, the land of Israel, Jesus.
What old was she?
She was 45.
Did you have family?
Yes.
Children?
Twin sister, brother. And of course, this is very, when you think about murder, right?
What country was she from?
From America.
From America.
But like murder it's like that unforgivable sin, right? Because it affects, obviously, the person who's murdered. It affects their family, it affects communities, it affects nations, and it affects the future.
Let me ask you, so say you didn't get attacked, but you witnessed this. That would be one of the most traumatic things anyone could witness. They'll have a lot of problems and suffering from seeing that. But seeing that and having your life attacked and being on your own deathbed, I guess. How was that? How have you come back from that? How do you live on from that? What effects has that had on you personally? Did it change your life? Did you feel after that free to walk the streets? Did you have nightmares? Do you still have nightmares? What's the knock-on effect? Although you've survived, what's the damage been?
Appreciate that question, Tommy. Thank you. Well, first of all, physically, I was pretty much smashed up. And I could complain, which I like to do, but at least I'm around, waking up in pain and breathing. Every time I breathe, it hurts. But that's better than not being alive. Do you know what I mean? So physical trauma is actually easier to come to terms with. I was in physical recovery for many years. I needed help just to dress, to sit up, I couldn't do anything, like nothing moved. Mentally or spiritually, I see how easy it is online just to watch people getting killed, right? Or in the case of my friend, murdered, and that's an important difference, by the way. They're not the same words. And so how has it affected me? In many, many ways. But I think, I remember after the attack, I always had Arab friends, right? Actually, it was an Arab-Israeli surgeon who saved my life. So I don't care how oppressed you feel or how victimized you feel. It's always a choice, right, between a machete or a scalpel. All right, choice. It's a choice how we behave to our own personal situations. So I had many, many years of just this rage, the sheer helplessness that's incurred with terrorism and being tied up and you can't do anything. I lost obviously my friend, my physical health, my mental health, an expectancy of a long life. I needed care 24/7. I had to sell up my home. I lost that self-respect in providing for myself, a vocation. You mentioned nightmares. I didn't have any because I just didn't sleep long enough. I lost routine. I lost that ability to engage in the mundane. But with that, Tommy, I haven't taken out my frustrations and pounced on Arabs, tied them up and hacked them to death. So it's affected me deeply. And one thing, and I know you can handle this conversation, not everybody is able to, but I watch your activism and with these poor women who've suffered jihadi rape, all right? And you're that voice of justice. And for somebody who's been victimized, you don't want to be loved. Being loved is nice. I want to know that there's somebody with muscles and they do justice on my behalf because I'm so broken and weak. And so for me, it was very important to do justice. I didn't go take a knife and slit the throats of their family, but I really did all I could to speak about the funding of people who do this by the Palestinian Authority, make sure he stayed in prison, which obviously is not true anymore. And the thing I want to say is that, and I had this conversation with a bus driver I used to work with as a tour guide, an Arab man, very nice man. And I told him, the irony is, I said, look, I hate the Arabs. I hate them. I just wish they were all dead. And I'm talking to my Arab friend. And he said something very wise. He said, look, you have to hold on to your right to hate evil people. If people aren't going to validate that, they don't have any business in this conversation. You must hate them. There's nothing wrong with feeling rage, but you have to direct and limit that to the perpetrators, okay? And by doing that, by holding them accountable, and of course the British government have been funding the likes of this terrorism, and the far left media, like the far left Sky News, the far left BBC, all these people who seem to think that it's okay for people to do this to one another. By limiting my outrage to those only, what that actually did for me, it liberated me to actually reach out to, Arabs, Muslim, Palestinians who were horrified at this. In fact, one of them, when I was your tour guide, remember you went into that so-called refugee camp and you spent the day with
the young Muslim lad.
Yeah, we'll call him Ali for the sake of...
Yeah, let's call him Ali.
All right, he reached out to me.
He was a lovely lad.
He's an amazing man and he's got a moral compass, right? He knows he's also suffering from this jihadism.
The lad we met in there, when we went into that refugee camp, he was a lovely lad. The lad I interviewed.
Yeah, Ali, we'll call him.
Okay, there was the lad who brought us there, and then there was the other lad as well, so there was a couple of... Okay, can I just rewind you a little bit? Because I think this is the most important part for me and for a British audience. You say the people who are responsible for this attack. The man that attacked you, what was his name?
Iyad Fatafta. Iyad Hussein Fatafta.
Was he financially rewarded for attacking you?
He's had millions.
Millions of pounds. So let's just reiterate this. So the Palestinian Authority, who are in control of Gaza, the so-called West Bank, the Palestinian Authority in control, they pay people, so the audience understands, they pay people, and the reward and how much financial benefit they get is higher the more people they kill.
The more Jews they kill.
The more Jews they kill.
Murder.
The more Jews they murder. So the Palestinian Authority, the government, who are in control of the Palestinian areas, if someone leaves a Palestinian area and kills your friend, murders your friend, the Palestinian Authority pay them, which I think 160 millionaires just come out of jail. Yeah, so they're financially rewarded to a huge scale in finance for the rest of their lives. They receive monthly money for the rest of their life. Is that right?
That's right.
So this was the most shocking thing, Kate, Tal, when I come and met you, yeah, which I never was aware of, was that the Palestinian Authority received my taxpayer money, our taxpayer money, the British.
Yeah.
So your taxpayer money at home. So that means that your taxpayers' money is given to a government in Palestine who, you've just listened to what this lady's gone through, the attack, the trauma, the murder, the barbarianism. Our government paid the Palestinian Authority, who paid the jihadist murderers, to do this and reward them. Is that right?
Absolutely right.
I've missed it?
Absolutely.
So when you find out, when you know that, because you say who's responsible for your murder? Yes, the man who murdered your friend and attacked you. But also, if this was a criminal conspiracy charge, then the person that paid him to do it is also responsible, which is the Palestinian Authority. But who's the Palestinian Authority getting paid by? It's the British government. That, for me, I'd say was the biggest shock of coming to Israel in 2016. I left like, really? How many of you knew this? How many of the British audience knew this? Since you found that out, or since after your attack and your friend's murder, what have you tried to highlight this with the British government? Have you contacted the British government?
It's okay. So I mean, going back to this Ali,
Yep.
I've been with him. He's an incredibly brave man. All right, we've spoken to governments. All right, together. He comes as a Palestinian. He says, this is outrageous what's happened. What happened to Tal? What happened to us? So we've done stuff. Now, I was cancelled from day one. All right, even though I can say, you know what? I helped him set up a little education project for kids in that camp so they'd learn about life and so they wouldn't go around murdering Jews. I did it with my own resources that I had. I wrote to every British MP a few years ago. I attached gory photos of my injuries, which is no need to publish here. And I got an answer. I mean, I don't know how many.
Can I publish them here?
Yeah, you can. I'll send you them.
No, I think it is important to publish you.
All right.
I think it's important for an audience to understand what you've gone through and see it. I always say it's important you see what's happening here.
I'm happy to do that. I mean, when I caught you at breakfast, right, I showed you my Twitter messages. It's like
you're being attacked. You're being called a Zionist dog. You're being called a traitor. Same things I'm being called.
But it doesn't.
You're just a British.
I know it doesn't. It doesn't come actually just from Ahmed and Muhammad. It comes from English. Well, and this is outrageous. But anyway, I wrote to every single British MP, and I attached these photographs. And if you look at a pie chart of responses, right, 90% said, "What's your postcode?" And I thought, I don't even live in Britain.
Oh, and then they just say, "Oh, sorry, that's not nothing to do with me." Is that what they said?
Well, I didn't even bother with the postcode, and then others completely ignored it. And then, I think there were 3 MPs at the time who wrote back, and they said, and they were sincere, right? They said, "We're really sorry. That's terrible what happened to you. Please be assured that the British government are doing everything they can to work on a 2-state solution." Tommy, I wasn't I wasn't asking about a 2-state solution. I still have family in England, a few stragglers, right? They, like you, through their hard-working money, they're paying the people who tried to murder me. I wasn't talking about a 2-state solution. It's a pathology with the British government. It's a pathology. They can't talk about anything else. It's morally it's reprehensible. It's disgusting. This state of Palestine, right?
Let's go
on
to the state. So Keir Starmer's just recognised the state of Palestine, governed by who?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? And I tell you something.
Well, currently governed by who? The Palestinian Authority?
Well, I don't even know where it is. I mean, they didn't even define any borders. There was nothing like that.
He's given recognition to the state of Palestine, which the Palestinian areas are governed by the Palestinian Authority, who still today in 2025, after so many more attacks since you and murders, but when we talk about some of the murders that people have been rewarded for, one man who's just been released killed 7 kids. Okay, murdered 7 kids. Another woman recently, just 6 months ago, was pregnant on her way to give labour. Another jihadist pulled her over, shot her. Baby lived for a week, then died. In some of the settlements, a family have woke up to have their whole family butchered to death. This is an onslaught of barbarianism, murder that is financially rewarded. Every one of them who do this get a financial reward by the Palestinian Authority, by your government. And your government, our government, Keir Starmer, has just given recognition to this government who continue the pay for slay. That's what it's been named, pay for slay policy. So they didn't say, right, I'll tell you what, Palestinian Authority, we'll recognise your state if you remove this policy. If they didn't even negotiate to have this murderous, what I can only call mercenary encouraging law on rule and reward. But I still can't believe we're even here. A decade after I first met you, a decade after your contact in the government is still funding an organisation that does this. How are you ever going to stop the war? How are you ever going to stop the murder against Jews or against Israelis if it's financially rewarded as well? But you're sitting here, you've watched what's happened on October 7th. Obviously, I guess anytime there's anything like this must bring everything back for you. Jews and Israelis and non-Jews, actually, because they murdered everyone. They've been taken back to Gaza. The sons and daughters of Israel are hostage. The world's watched this. There seemed to be more of a call for a ceasefire than if there would have been a ceasefire automatically and no war if the hostages were given back. That no one seemed to be making a big deal out of the hostages being given back. But the man that you witnessed murder your friend, the man who butchered you 18 times with a machete, who didn't care and celebrated it, the jihadist, has just walked free from prison in a negotiated peace deal. So 20 hostages come back, 250 jihadist terrorists. Now let's not, and the media try and make it an equivalent. Well, they've released prisoners for prisoners. No, the prisoners who were released from Gaza, the Palestinians, murdered kids, murdered women, raped, pillaged, butchered. What are you thinking as your murderer? As you're watching the negotiations go on, are you concerned for 18 months that this is going to see the release of the man that hacked your friend to death? Which point did you realise, I think they're going to release him?
Well, it's a very interesting question, and that requires quite an extensive answer, because I think that there's 2 things here. One, that Israel fought a very good military war, as much as I understand. But we also fought a very, very bad war in the public arena, all right? And I tell you where we made mistakes. And now I think only people are talking about it. And I don't blame my Prime Minister, because we know there's talk here every time there's an invasion or round of fire from Gaza or whatever. Israel knows that we have a window of opportunity, which, by the way, is something that's never afforded Ukraine when they were invaded, right? Nobody's saying, oh, Ukraine, you've only got a few weeks to deal with this. But I remember October the 7th, Israeli flag projected on civil buildings everywhere. But that evening, you have these depraved savages walking through the streets of London, calling out for free Palestine. And what happened from a government level, Israel and the UK, is first of all, the UK had a very quick moral abandonment of Israel. Instead of sticking with Israel and saying, you know, you have every right to defend yourself, they started giving ambivalent messages, the whataboutism, the both sides, and that's what the media did, right? This wasn't a both sides war. This is, I'm watching your Christian stuff, right? But in the beginning, in the book of Genesis, God separates the heavens from the seas and the earth. It's like a divine line drawn in the sand. There's right and there's wrong. There's good and there's evil. And this slaughter, this massacre of Jews, people say, oh, it's the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. That is true, but that's not what it's about only. It's the depravity in it. It's the recreational terrorism. It's the casual cruelty that we've not seen since the Holocaust. So there's been that moral abandonment by not just the British government, the French, the Spanish. I mean, it's all over the place. And what did Israel do? Because Israel knows that we only have a window of opportunity, which is outrageous in the public sphere, our Prime Minister or the spokespeople, they came up and they said, look, this is a war only against Hamas. And I tell you where that's problematic, Tommy. Because you see from the GoPro footage, the terrorist footage, you see they got these headbands, and there's different Palestinian factions, right? PLFP, Jihad, Islamic Jihad, Palestinian Authority, Fatah, PLO. So it's many factions. It's not just Hamas.
It's a combination of jihadist groups and organisations.
And
civilians.
Exactly. And this is what we haven't talked about. It's like the elephant in the room. You listen to survivor testimonies. You listen to the hostages who've been freed. The civilians who are complicit in this are thousands, all right? Absolutely. You can see it for yourself. They're invading. The official reports are saying that much of the rape and the brutality and the burning of Jews were done by civilians, not people in army clothes or not militants. Then you watch the footage, right? The people are driving our dead and alive hostages over to Gaza. It's civilians crowding around. It's civilians who are hiding hostages, like doctors even, hiding hostages back at home. It's civilians. If you look at these grotesque release ceremonies, I'll never forget Arbel Yehoud, this frail woman. She comes out after several days, I mean, many, many days in captivity. And the macabre irony is, gathering around Arbel, gathering around her, the Hamas with their weapons, and they're trying to get her to the Red Cross. They're trying to get her to the Red Cross car. And the Hamas, in that sense, are protecting her from this...
From civilian bomb.
From civilian bomb. And also, you remember the Dear Bibas family, right? That the coffins of these Jewish corpses, babies, right next to a stage where there were Palestinian children doing a song and dance routine about annihilating the Jews. Now, why do I say that's important? Because 20 years... for 20 years, civilians have turned a blind eye to the tunnels. I mean, we've found tunnels under kids' cots, under every school, under every mosque. Mothers, what's the place? People always say, oh, the women and the children. Your kid comes home from school. You're a mum, right? Well, you're not, but you're a mum. And your kid comes home from school and he's singing about slaughter the Jews. Where is the responsibility of every Gazan mother to say, no, this isn't what we're doing? So Israel played it wrong. I really believe that Israel, and we knew why, because we knew if it, like the innocent civilians bit, just say civilians, but we made the civilians the goodies, and we made the armed factions the baddies, but the complicity in everyone. Look, the
armed faction have the support of the civilians.
What's that?
The armed faction have the support of the civilians.
Well, totally, and they're participant in what they did. I mean, there's been no peace in Gaza for 20 years you hear all the heavy machinery digging the tunnels. You listen to any hostage who's come back, everyone, and you're talking like the communities around Gaza and the dance festival, these are not right-wing Israelis. These are like cool kids or just left-wing, and they come back and they say there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. And I tell you another thing that's happened with this. It's that, to think that the world has taken our 10 commandments, which is the basis of Christianity, and if I say to Tommy, what's the 5th commandment, or to anybody, people will say, "Thou shalt not kill." And look at Israel; they've been killing.
Thou shalt not murder.
And it's absolutely, it is a huge difference. So the world has taken our very own code and twisted it against us
to weaken us.
And that's, we've been very lazy there. And I think we really need to brush up on how we handle this. And I forgot what your question was, but I'm sure it was relevant what I just said, right?
It's all relevant. Everything's relevant. Tal, speaking now, if Keir Starmer was sat here, if the Labour government, David Lammy, Jess Phillips, any of them, who supported the recognition of a Palestinian state under the control of the Palestinian Authority, who reward people for attacks like what happened to you, what would you say to them? If you could speak to him now, to the Labour government, Keir Starmer, what would you say? As a British woman.
As a British woman, I'll put my Israeli passport aside. Okay, I'd like to say, I keep calling him Keith, by the way. Sorry.
I keep calling him Wanker. Do you know, I met an Aramaic lad yesterday who speaks the language of Jesus Christ. I said, please, in the language of Jesus Christ, just tell me Keir Starmer's a wanker, for God.
There's a lot to that, by the way.
Yeah.
But I think if I was to say to him, he's a moral coward, but it's much bigger than that, isn't it? It's like the abandonment of Israel, trying to please both sides. And I think he's doing it to curry favour with actually the jihadic takeover in the Labour government. All right. And what people don't realise, doesn't matter how nice he's going to be to these people, he's not going to win favour with these jihadists. So what is happening in Israel is happening in Britain. And he needs to grow a pair of balls, basically. Cowardice doesn't get you anywhere. I watched the Trump conference in Egypt, right, where President Trump snubbed what's his name? Keir Starmer.
Keith. Let's call him Keith, the wanker. No, go on.
And I mean, to me, that was so glorious. That was such an appropriate moment.
It was.
Because when Hamas tweet out thanking Keith Starmer for what they did to me, a British Israeli, that says it all, right? That says it all. That somebody who savaged me, somebody who still has British citizenship, and they actually personally thank the British Prime Minister.
Who paid them.
Who's paid them, who has not even... no one from the British government has met with me. By the way, I've been cancelled by the far-left BBC, by the far-left Sky News. I have been totally deplatformed as somebody who's been working with Palestinians in education. I'm not like you, Tommy. I'm not like, I'm not that kind of person who's... You've had a rocky ride, right? I'm not that kind of... It's not a moral judgment. I'm just not that kind of person. I was considered moderate centrist.
So do the public realise it doesn't matter what kind of person you are? You talk about these issues. They obviously use my upbringing as a weapon against me. But
yeah, but you know what? At least and people need to know this, right? When back in 2016, I hadn't done any guiding. I was still highly traumatised. And our friend Brian, I actually texted him the other day and I said, "What's your name, Brian?" Because it's not his real name, right? But Brian of London. He called me.
Yeah, there's going to be a mass campaign out there to find out your real name.
So Brian of London called me and he said, I do have something to say here. Like I haven't had anything to say for the rest of the interview. But he said, "Look, I want you to guide Tommy Robinson." Now, the name rang a bell, but I've been in Israel too long. So I found nothing about that you're saying, but I Google and I think...
I'm not touring him.
No, I was a bit more diplomatic. I just said, look, first of all, I don't have the emotional energy for a right-wing goose-stepping Nazi thug. And I don't want to give him, it's like I'm trying to do moderate things. And I told Brian no. And he said, "Listen, I get that, but read Tommy's book." So I'm reading, Sky News and all this stuff, and I realised that this is a very racist, horrible man. And then I read your book, and I'm a writer, and I read your book. First of all, I thought it was brilliantly written. Secondly, it's like I learned so many new swear words. but which were very fun.
trbooks.co.uk, right?
No, but your voice was so authentic and it was so different than what I was. And I thought, this is an interesting man. So I said to Brian, I said, okay. And then I remember you turned up my house. I was in the desert then. And we had my Muslim friend with me. And you brought your black mate over. And I thought, that's interesting for a racist. I mean, the language was appalling for 8 days.
Me and that lad haven't spoken for 4 years since Black Lives Matter.
Oh, really?
That's insane, right?
That is insane. That is insane. But Tommy, what I want to say here, right, is that, I mean, I know people are on their best behaviour when they first meet, but there were 2 moments in that whole trip. I remember we went on the Golan Heights and we got a permission from the colonel that you can have a photo standing on a tank. I remember talking to the Israeli soldiers. You get on the tank, you're in a horrible pair of shorts and ridiculous flip-flops.
I look awful and I was so fat.
You were fat.
And I'm getting fat again being here in Israel. That's all you just keep doing is feed.
But I remember the soldier giving you the gun with an empty magazine and it's like you're holding a dead corpse and they're laughing at you. But the next day, one of the British papers ran that photo as it was like far-right activist standing on the Golan Heights in a war-torn area. Israel wasn't at war then. And then that was the moment.
You saw how the media changed the reality of it.
And at least I have. You know, I see now how the dialogue is going and how fearful people are. You know, I have people texting me and they're saying, look, like journalists, right? And that we really support what Tommy is doing. But I'm getting to the point of it's like, okay, it might not be everybody like cup of tea, the style, but at least I've met you, Tommy. You know, at least I'm not vicariously tweeting my opinions. And I would encourage anybody who's still nervous about you to have a cup of tea, pint of beer, or whatever, and just have a chat with you.
Hot chocolate for me.
Hot chocolate? Oh, you're off the beer, right? Good for you, really.
Can I just say, Kay?
Oh, I did. No, you can call me Kay, because I need to talk about that too.
Okay.
Let me do this first. I know people tune into your YouTube to hear about you, but this is a one-off time for me.
Of course.
I changed my name legally after I'd been speaking about the attack for many years. I just got very mentally tired. And do you know what happened, Tommy? I just thought, I've done what I can. Nothing's changing. But also I realised that while what happened to me is huge, right? It's not who I am. It's what happened to me. It's other things happened to me in my life. Good things too. And I think that's also a thing for people who always perpetually holding the Palestinians in victimhood. It's like, you know, bar of low expectations. Like if you really, really love someone, you're not going to shackle them in victimhood, right? So the change of name for me was like, I had I could look at life again. And I started doing other things. But because there's nothing, you know, when people used to introduce me as a victim of terrorism, I mean, my skin crawled. It's like, and then I went through, I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. And then I went through, no, I'm not that. I'm that and that, but I'm just Tal. So it's very important for me to, you know, I'm not going to, it's just what happened to us. Trauma is something and that's the same for Israel. We're going to go through this stage. We need to give testimony of what happens, but we're not what happens to us. We are not what happens to us. That is simply what happens to us.
I'll just say, I don't think... I'm sat here now. I've spent 10 days in Israel doing my journalism, first and foremost, asking questions, giving the public a different perception of what's happening here. This will as well give them a perception of what it's like for a lady to live here and survive an attack like that. I don't think I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Brian originally inviting me and for you giving me the tour that you gave me, because it was one of the most... Back then, let me tell the truth, 2016, I used to like to party. Yeah. This was and every away day, I think, party. So when I looked at Israel, I saw Tel Aviv, I thought, party in Tel Aviv, yeah. Go Israel, I'm going to go out. And so I invited my friend Dean, who I like to party with, yeah. When I come here, I didn't party once, because once I started that week, you were the best tour guide as well.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you.
With your knowledge, but obviously because of your story, we had a fabulous week. I didn't want to lose a minute. And it's been the same this time. From 6 in the morning till midnight, 1:30. I finished last night, started again at 6:30 this morning. I didn't want to lose a minute because I was so interested. And we had an amazing week. And even where I am now, which I'm trying to use my position to tell the public you're being lied to about Israel. You're being lied to about Hamas, Gaza. You're being lied to and fooled. The misinformation that I've faced is the misinformation Israel's facing. But all of these things I don't think would have happened without your original invite and your tour and meeting you. So it's all played a part in my progression, my knowledge, my understanding and my commitment to make sure that the truth is told. I wonder how many of these people who walk down the street of Gaza or walk down with the Palestinian flags in Britain know about stories of innocent...
I don't think they care. I don't think they care. And, you know, when I say free Palestine, you know, I wish them freedom. I wish them the freedom, the autonomy of thought, that they'd reject this belief that they'd be free by the shedding of blood. You know, I don't think they care. And it's just... Look, I tell you, I know we've like slagged off the BBC and everybody possible. I'm glad to have a platform to do that and the Prime Minister. But there's also villains in this game that I want to really maximise this time, Tommy.
Who are we going after?
No, I want to do it very logical. I want to do it logical. You know, I tweeted out, I mean, I'm a bit of a dinosaur with social media and stuff, but I tweeted out when I heard that the person who attacked me, and I never called them animals, because the moment we call people animals, we absolve them from responsibility. This is a human being that did this to me. And I tweeted out, look, my terrorist has just been released, Piers Morgan. I'm sure your viewers would be very interested to know what that feels like. And it went viral. And then eventually Piers Morgan's staff, I mean, I don't have a staff, he says, yeah, we'll get you on the show. Cancelled last minute. Then there's a rescheduling. I mean, he cancelled because of Eli Sharabi, which was great. But then he cancelled again, and there was some interview with wokeism. I don't know what it was. But I understood, really, that and this is why your journalism is so important, because journalists like Piers Morgan have played this game, the seesaw game, right? We're going to platform Israeli voices, and then we're going to platform this. And what Morgan hasn't managed to do is hold any moral ground. Meaning, if you have a seesaw, all right, the crime against Israel on October the 7th, and in my case, in my friend's case, was murder. Let's fill a basket with oranges on the edge of the seesaw. That's murder. Then you've got a basket of apples, right? That's killing. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to morally equate Israel's just war with the numerical game of civilians, which happen to be also combatants without, as we've discussed, all right? So I think people like Piers Morgan, obviously he's abdicated from any moral responsibility. And I think he's stoked the coals of enmity instead of fanning the flames of any empathy for any, because this war is going to end and we're all going to have to get back to our life. And I think he's a coward. And I first realised he's a coward when that famous clip of you holding the Quran. But I think Piers Morgan is also complicit in the hostilities that we all feel to one another today. And I think he should be held to account with it. You know, it's like, not just him, like people he platforms, like Owen Jones, right?
How are the Board of Deputies hammering me and not talking about Owen Jones?
And they should be talking about Louis Theroux.
Oh my God, I've just seen
Louis Theroux, when he interviews that cosplay guy with a double-barrel surname called Pascal.
The posh,
right.
Woman,
right. No,
the black fella who deaf to the IDF, encouraging murder against a military. If you come here, this is the other point. You're wearing an IDF T-shirt, same T-shirt
Absolutely.
I wore when I come here. They're just young children who are conscripted to defend their country. Yeah, who are surrounded by jihadists who are intent on destroying and raping and pillaging the country. So when he's shouting deaf to the IDF, what that means, just to get past your visuals if you're in Britain, it means the 18-year-old girl that I sat with yesterday, who's just left school and is now conscripted to join the Israeli Defence Force, who then joins the Israeli Defence Force to defend her country and her people and play any role. They're children. That's the reality when you meet them, yeah? So when someone's cheering deaf to the IDF, what he's calling for is deaf to all these innocent kids who are trying to defend their nation against jihadists. The jihadist mindset's not a million miles away. Do you know the Ariana Grande concert that was blown up? The synagogue of Qatar last week, Westminster Bridge, 7/7, that's who's surrounding this country. That idea, that is the ideology that drove this man to attack as well as the financial benefits from the British government, in fact, but to attack Tal here. How did? Let me get back to just get. I want to really get in your mind here.
Oh no, you don't.
No, but I think it's important to.
Yeah.
Where was you, and when did you find out that the jihadist who murdered your friend and attacked you in such a horrific way was about to be released?
It's really hard for me that I had to find out on Google. All right, we can critique Israel, we're all Israelis. So I found out on Google. That's how I found out. And of course, then I had the unenviable job of wondering if my friend's family even know. They didn't know anything. So this is like Israel, Israel's such a irritating, wonderful place, right? Like we're good at some things and we're terrible at others. But that was very hard for me. That was like another stab in the back, to be honest.
But what I've heard you say, which I was very surprised about, you still would support the exchange?
It's complicated.
Or not?
Listen, it's like...
But your government are in an absolutely impossible situation.
Yeah, and that's also because of the moral corrosion from governments in the West. And the media.
They've tied their hands behind their back.
It's like this, right? Like, I can't talk in abstract. I'll talk physically. I love birds. Next time you come here, we're going bird watching. Okay. So the other day I saw this beautiful bird of prey, the big birds, and he caught in midair a little bird. And when you see something like that in nature, it's very rare that you see that happening, and it's like, wow, that's incredible, that's insane. And you want both, the harrier is the big bird, and you're so glad that it got its prey, right? Because it's going to survive now. It's eaten, and then there's that. Oh, hang on a minute. What about the little bird? So that's kind of what it was. It's like I can be thrilled for the hostages. I mean, if I even look at their faces, my God, these people have such a long way home. I mean, but I cried when they came out. I'm only glad for them. With that, I'm enraged for myself. I feel betrayed. And it's not this or that. I can hold both contradictory emotions at once. And that's what we need to do as a country. Israel always has choiceless choices in this sense.
Can I ask you, I don't want to insult you with this question.
No, you can insult me. I've been through
worse. If it was
your
decision.
Right.
If you was given the decision to get those 20 people back, if it was your personal decision, because at the same time, I'd be raging if I was you with my government. I'd be raging, but if it was your decision and it was given to you, well, we've got to let them go in order to get these people back. What would you have done?
Okay, let's just pretend he didn't...
Is that insulting to
No, it's a very, very important question.
I think because people need to understand the position your government are in.
I'm not blaming I'm actually not blaming my own government here.
I think the Western government.
Israel has been pushed into a corner.
Agree. But what would you have done?
Okay, so there's a lot of ifs to this, right? Christine, the man who murdered me, was also, he also murdered my friend. He was sentenced for murdering my friend. Now, you cannot forgive. The only person who can forgive, right? We have to talk about forgiveness. It's like even in Christianity, there's the person who did wrong and there's the wronged. And only the wronged can forgive any sin. All right. So the problem with murder is that the person who's been wronged is the murdered, and they're not around to extend forgiveness. So that makes murder logically, rationally impossible. Let's just pretend, for the sake of argument, that he didn't murder my friend and he only attacked me. All right. And let's also, could you give me a guarantee that he wasn't going to murder again? No. All right. So it's not my moral authority to say, because on the one hand, if he promised me and he stuck to it and he only tried to attack me and didn't murder my friend, and for everything he's ruined in my life, like my health, my mental health, if that's all it's about and he's not going to murder again, would I let him out for the hostages? I'd drive to the prison, I'd put him in the car, I'd give him a sandwich and a cup of coffee, and I'd take him home. Absolutely. Absolutely. What you did to me, I would rather have my hostages home, but I have no guarantee that he's not going to murder again. And it's unforgivable what he did, because he murdered my friend.
And have you just seen that they're in a 5-star hotel in Egypt?
I know. And he's probably come out with a bunch of money as well.
They're in a 5-star hotel in Egypt with British holiday makers who have no idea that in the room next door is a jihadist who butchered and killed. So he served, 15 years in prison? That's not justice.
And I saw a Facebook, I saw on his brothers, I got Arab friends.
You're having to watch all this.
Yeah, I saw that, and the gloating. And
what is his brother? Your killer's brother?
the murderer's brother. Yeah, and I see this horrible, I just wanted to see he'd suffered, right? And he looked pretty good. I mean, until October the 7th, they had reasonable conditions in prison.
Many of them, from what I understand, are quite happy to go into prison because they get education, they get a better life, and then their family get rewarded. So it's a win-win situation for them.
Absolutely, and Israel has very... I'm not quite sure it's such a good thing, but if...
Humane conditions.
Yeah, and I'd stick them in a cage 20 feet under the ground and throw away the key. That's what I feel like doing. But it's like back to listen, I said it in the beginning. For somebody who's been violated, in my case physically, mentally, and for what you're doing with these victims of jihadist sexual grooming, justice is so important to me. And that's actually what struck me when I first met you. On the one hand, I remember telling you what happened to me in the car, and you were in the back and I was in the front, and I was looking in the mirror and I saw tears in your eyes, and it wasn't soppy. And we got out the car. I mean, I could feel your rage on my behalf, and that's why I think we connected. And I remember saying, "Oh, Tommy, I wish you'd have been there." And I never forget your face. It was contorted, and you said, "Oh, I wish I'd have fucking been there too." And I see that rage, and then I see how compassionate you are with the people who've been victimised, and that's such a rare concoction in any human being, and you have to hold on to that. I think personally, you've got to be angry. You cannot hate evil people enough. You've got to keep the hate.
My first comments after watching the video of October 7th, the unseen footage, I just said, we don't hate them enough.
No, it's absolutely true. These people have nothing to do with humanity. They have nothing good to bring.
Okay, Tal, what's the future for Israel? Well, from your point of view, yeah? You're British, you live here, you understand what it's like to live here, you understand your country, it's not an apartheid state, you see it. How do you feel about the way Israel is now viewed and Jews are viewed around the world currently? How does that make you feel?
I've got to the point where I actually don't care. I mean, I did before, right? But it seems whatever Israel does, and we have to, wise up, smell the coffee. It doesn't matter what Israel does. It doesn't matter if we export the cherry tomato or look, we're, tap bombing buildings it doesn't matter how we fight a war, what we do, we are never going to be liked or appreciated in the majority, okay? So I got to the point, I don't care what the world thinks. Israel we have to keep to our moral code, which I think we're doing. And also, I tell you, Tommy, if I look at myself, I know I've had a setback in the last week or so because this savage has been released. But I look and see how, after October the 7th, there were days where every Israeli, we thought, this is it. This could be the end of Israel. And 2 years later, we're planting fields again, right? We have a long way to go. And up until now, Israel has been the greatest exporter of technology, medical technology, high tech. You know what we're going to export, and we are exporting? Israel, a light to the nations, we are exporting post-traumatic growth because the West lives in a victim-obsessed world. Everybody's a victim, right? You hurt my feelings. Like the victim culture. And after the massacre we've endured, and war on 7 fronts, 8 fronts with the public communication
It's a miracle
stuff.
Israel's still here.
It is a miracle.
It's a miracle. 6-Day War was a miracle. It's a miracle with who surrounds you, what surrounds you, the size of the enemy that surrounds you. And here you are 2 years on thriving. It's a miracle the way the public deal with this. It's a miracle to see the resilience. I think I've come here to learn and listen. I think we can learn a lot.
Because we choose life. That doesn't mean to say we don't hate our enemies, but we choose life.
And you know you have to fight.
Absolutely.
And as people, you have to fight.
We all have to fight. We all have to fight. But I'm so proud. I tell you something. When I went for a walk in that forest that day with my Christian friend, I took a walk. I was Jewish. And when I stood up, bludgeoned, it's a little abstract, but I stood up as a Jew. And as Menachem Begin said, he said, I am not a Jew with trembling knees. I'm a proud Jew with 3,700 years of civilized history. I fought for our country. We died for our country. We will defend our principles. And if necessary, we will die for them. That was very formative. And I think that's the same for Israel. Like, you know, there's one thing being Jewish, but it's another ballgame to actually stand up and say, yeah, I'm a proud Jew. I'm a grateful Jew. In fact, the word Jew comes from the word to give thanks.
Well, as a brave Jew, I think everyone's going to witness this and think you're an inspiring lady. What message do you have to mothers, to women in Britain? What message would you give to them with what you've experienced, what surrounds you here? As a mother or as a woman, what message do you have to British women? To
British women? Look, men need women, women need men, right? But I think just generally in the community, Israel has community. We have a sense of nationhood, right? And by the way, I might not answer your question, but I want to tell you something really important that you know. This whole, what's going on in Britain, you have to be, not you, encourage your followers, right? It has to be framed in the right word. This is not, the raping, the mass raping is not about Pakistani grooming gangs raping British children. That's not what it is. It is jihadists raping non-Muslim children, because you've got Boko Haram, who are black, raping jihadists, raping these little children in Nigeria.
Yazidi girls being targeted.
You've got to reframe that. It's got nothing to do with race. By the way, there's no such thing as race. There's only one race, which is the human race. Jews are an ethnic identity. I mean, like I said, I'm a bird watcher. There's eagles, there's ducks, there's parrots. They're all birds. We've got to get this race thing out. People, I don't care what you don't.
They keep saying Pakistani group. I say, well, yeah, the majority are Pakistani because the majority of Muslims in the UK are Pakistani.
Exactly.
If the majority of Muslims in the UK was Somali, then the majority would be Somalian.
It's got nothing to do with it. It's just the demographics, and you have to make sure that anyone who's fighting this ongoing war of a jihadi takeover, Islamic takeover of Britain, it's nothing to do, as you said, with Pakistani or British girls. It's 7th century Islam. You know Islam so well. And you spoke with Tzvi Yechezkeli. You know, I know you're not that great with names, but this great Islamic journalist and scholar.
Well, he carries some weight. He has an aura.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, brave man. And yeah.
So I think you need to do it for the women and children, like build community events. I know you got like the Unite the Kingdom. You know what would be really great? It's like the Jewish community are, I mean, it's easy to bash the border deputies, but I don't think in that sense, I got to be honest, Tommy, I think in one sense you're irrelevant in that discussion, and I tell you why. Because even if you just shut your mouth and don't speak about them anymore, that is not going to change any jihadist attitude towards the Jews, right? You need to do what you want to do, but you're very relevant. But the irony is, it's like you're also irrelevant because they're on a course to Islamize the whole of the United Kingdom. So I would say, like, it would be good to see put on events with the Jewish community. You know, I know that demands security and stuff, or just Christian people, or go to their Jewish neighbours and, I mean, be aware of the Jewish festivals and just say, hey, happy holiday. And I think that, and you know, we have as Jews, wherever we are in the world, we have a community, we have a calendar.
Your Sabbath is very powerful.
Not just even in our liturgy.
I spent yesterday, I went to a Sabbath dinner. The way that everything shuts down. The way that everyone's phones are put away, and the way that all the families come together. I looked out, I was in an apartment block, and I looked out as I could see gardens, and the gardens were just full of communities. Something we've lost in Britain.
No, but don't go down without a fight.
Yeah, we're not. We're ready to fight.
I think you've lost, but I don't know.
No, not lost. I think we've lost parts of our cultural identity and our togetherness and our community. But I believe the spirit of Britain, the British spirit, and the fight within Britain is ready and it's awakened, and we're not going to go down without a fight. We never have. It's just getting people to understand who they are, where they come from, the importance of their history, the importance of what people have done before us to protect the British identity and the British culture. But Tal, I've had a fascinating chat again.
It's great, Tommy. Really, I'm so glad to see you. And can I just publicly apologise that I'm sorry that in my mind, up until 2016, even though you were just a little flicker, I'd not heard you. I'm sorry that I actually thought badly of you until I actually met you
no
for
one needs to
myself.
apologise to me. That's what. Look, there's a very good campaign. The similar campaign that's being waged against Israel and Jews is a similar campaign that I faced for a decade.
But you forgive me, right? That I even thought this thing. Give me a hug. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm honoured to have met you. I'm honoured to have got to know you. I'm honoured to have spent the week with you last time. I'm honoured to help give your message to a British audience or to an audience around the world.
Thank you, Tommy. Really, and thank you for everything you're doing for my people and for the world, really.
No, thanks. Been an honour.
Thanks, Tommy.
As I currently walk through the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem, we've come on this trip, as we do with all of our journalism, we have no large donors, contrary to the nonsense you hear. We struggle with our work. Imagine the work and content we could provide and produce if we could grow our team, if we could become an even bigger media empire. If you want to support our work, if you value the work we do, the work we do is to bring you the other side of the story the mainstream media don't tell you. The truth, on the ground, on the streets, in the towns, in the cities, in the UK, in different countries. Next we go to Poland. We've got lots of content. I need to get my next documentary done. If you've watched any of our work, it can't be done without you. We are by the people, for the people. That's who I work for you. Yeah? You make it possible. If you've donated, I want to say thank you already. If you haven't donated and you want to support our work, please do. We need your support. You can do so at supporttr.co.uk. Help us smash their narrative. Help us wake up the world. Thank you.